move into extended paragraphs, the second part of our three-part writing series. With extended paragraphs, we start out by teaching students that whenever we write, first we brainstorm, then we write, and then we always go back and self-check our work. We go into strategies for how to go about doing so. Let's take a look inside the book. When we open up the book, the first piece that we see on page 1 are the three concepts that I just mentioned. Every time we write, first we brainstorm, then we write, and then we always go back and self-check our work. Next, the book explains the difference between a simple paragraph, which is what we focused on in the first book, and the extended paragraph, which is what we'll focus on in this book. The simple paragraph, which was the first part of our writing series, teaches students that when we write a paragraph, it is just made of 5 sentences: the topic sentence, 3 detail sentences, and a conclusion sentence. For example, there are many different flavors of ice cream. First there is vanilla, next there is rocky road, last there is chocolate chip cookie dough. I love ice cream. The difference between a simple paragraph and an extended paragraph is that with an extended paragraph, we add 3 supporting detail sentences after each one of our details. For instance, in this case, we'll see that the topic sentence stays the same, the first detail stays the same, but now we add 3 supporting detail sentences after that first detail. Then we have our next detail with 3 supporting details, our third detail with 3 supporting details, and then our conclusion sentence. Essentially, we're adding 9 new sentences. We're extending our writing while still maintaining the organization of our ideas. The book shows the difference between an example of a simple paragraph, which I just read, versus an extended paragraph, which is written on page 3. With the extended paragraph, we'll see that the topic sentence stays the same. There are many different flavors of ice cream. The first detail sentence stays the same. First, there is vanilla. But now we add 3 separate supporting detail sentences describing vanilla. Our next detail is the same, with 3 supporting detail sentences describing rocky road, and so on and so forth. So again, essentially, we're extending our writing while still maintaining the organization of our ideas. Next, the book teaches you how to organize your paragraphs into 4 different types. We have the example paragraph, which gives examples, the process paragraph, which explains steps in a process, the reason paragraph, and then the compare-contrast paragraph. We'll start with the example paragraph. An example paragraph gives examples. The student is given sample topics that he or she might use to write an example paragraph. For example, we have names of countries, kinds of junk food, or winter activities. Then the student below is asked to write in some of his or her own ideas for sample topics that could be used to write example paragraphs. For instance, indoor games, meals for lunch, items in a bedroom, or types of drinks. Now we move into learning how to brainstorm for an extended paragraph. If you have either a mini or a large whiteboard, now might be a good time to pull it out and introduce this brainstorm web on that whiteboard. For the brainstorm web for an extended paragraph, we start by writing our topic sentence as a full sentence in the rectangular bubble at the top. Then we have 3 detail bubbles below that rectangular bubble. Here the student would write in the important details. Then, coming out of those detail bubbles are 3 bubbles for supporting details. So each detail will have 3 supporting detail bubbles to support that detail. Finally, at the bottom, the student will write out the conclusion sentence in a full sentence. That should be his or her own opinion on the topic. Then we learn that when we write, each of these bubbles will become a full sentence. There's a model of what that might look like on page 6. Then students are given ample practice brainstorming and writing different example paragraphs on various topics, such as places to visit, holidays, outdoor games, meals you can eat for dinner, and so on. Notice that we haven't yet introduced self-checking. That comes in the next section. In section 2B, we introduce self-checking. Whenever we self-check our work, there's two checklists that we should use. There's COPS, and then there's our organizational checklist. COPS stands for capitalization, organization, punctuation, and spelling. The C for capitalization is where we make sure that we capitalized everything properly. For O, which is organization, we need to make sure that every element on our organizational checklist is checked off before we can check off that O in COPS. Meaning, do we have a topic sentence? If so, check. Do we have our first detail sentence? Check. Do we have our 3 supporting details? Our next detail, those 3 supporting details, the final detail with supporting details, and the conclusion sentence. If so, and all of these boxes are checked off, then we can check off the O for organization in COPS. Next, we check off the P for punctuation, once all of those errors have been checked for, and then the S for spelling. Now going forward, every time the student writes, first he or she should brainstorm, then write, and then self-check with these 2 checklists. Now in section 3, we move on to the second paragraph type, which is the process paragraph. The process paragraph explains the steps involved in a process. Some examples of topics are given, such as how to make a smoothie, how to prepare breakfast in bed, and how to make French toast. Then the student is asked to come up with his or her own examples of topics for process paragraphs. Here the student came up with some of his or her own examples of topics. For example, how to make lasagna, how to fly a kite, how to prepare for a tornado, and how to catch a ball. Now the student is given practice brainstorming, writing, and self-checking different process extended paragraphs. However, before the student is asked to write anything on their own, they're always given a model of what a well-written paragraph looks like. If we look here, before the student begins writing, they see a model of how to brainstorm, write, and self-check a process paragraph. Then they are given ample practice writing their own on different topics, how to prepare for a vacation, how to catch a fish, how to throw a party, how to study for a test, and so on. In the next section, they move into how to write the third paragraph type, which is the reason paragraph. The reason paragraph gives reasons or the student's opinion on a topic. Some topics are given, such as why cookies and cream is the best ice cream flavor, why I love holidays, and why fruits and vegetables are healthy. Then the student is asked to come up with his or her own samples of their own possible topics they could use, such as, in this case, the student wrote, why parties are fun, why you should not smoke, why apples are healthy, and why traveling is fun. Again, the student is given a model of how to brainstorm, write, and self-check a reason paragraph. Then the student is given pages to write their own reason paragraphs on topics such as why education is important, why it is important to eat healthy, and why government is essential. Finally, in the last section of the book, the student is introduced to the final paragraph, which is the compare-contrast paragraph. The student is given sample topics and then writes some of his or her own that student might use to write various compare-contrast paragraphs. After the model, the student is given ample practice brainstorming, writing, and self-checking various compare-contrast paragraphs. Now let's do one paragraph together. The topic that we'll write about is how to prepare for a vacation. The first step, of course, is to brainstorm. If you'll notice on our brainstorm web, the student wrote, it is important to have a well-organized plan for preparing for a vacation as the topic sentence. Then the student filled in the detailed bubbles. Decide where to travel, decide how to get there, pack suitcase. Supporting each one of those details are supporting details. Supporting decide where to travel is read books and brochures, look online, and look at prices. Then, supporting decide how to get there is look into flight prices, explore driving, and look at train options. And finally, supporting pack suitcase, we have bring sleep clothes, toiletries, and bring day clothes. And then, of course, our conclusion sentence, I can't wait to travel. After we've done our brainstorming, of course, it's important to convert all of those bubbles into our extended paragraph. In this case, we'll see that the student actually had several different errors for capitalization, punctuation, spelling, That's why it was important that the student went back and used COPS and our organizational checklist to make sure that everything was corrected properly for this paragraph. In this case, the student was able to correct the word important, which he spelled I-M-P-T. He corrected it and spelled it properly. He left out various punctuation marks. He also incorrectly spelled other words and had some other mechanical challenges. Yet after using COPS and the organizational checklist, he checked off every box and had a successful brainstorm, paragraph, and self-checking checklist. The more students practice brainstorming, writing, and self-checking extended paragraphs, the easier it will become for them to write these, and the more fluid and automatic their ideas will become when they try to write on paper.